we can take any melody and we can put any chord underneath that. Something more like... Hey guys, this is Yusif. Today I'm going to show you a little bit of a music theory tutorial. Have you ever had a song and you wanted to kind of spice up the harmony? Well, we're going to do that. I'm going to show you how to take the song A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we're going to kind of jazz it up. My son's been playing this song on loop constantly, so I got the idea in my head to... I just got sick of hearing the same chords over and over, and I thought, let me spice this up. And I thought, oh, this is a good opportunity to talk about music theory. So, you know, you might have heard the song. Right, everyone's heard that song, and on and on. So the song uses 3 chords. It uses the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, and that's in a lot of songs. So I thought it's a good opportunity to talk about music theory a bit. So we can take any melody, and we can put any chord underneath that. So for example, something as boring as that can turn into something more like... So you can hear it's very different, you know. And so I've written a little composition too that I thought does a good job of going through a lot of different parts of music theory. And some review before we get into the actual song. So we have the major scale, which we can do in 12 keys, you know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, and then we can harmonize that in 2 parts. In thirds, right? Or we can add another note. So it's just 3. We call it 3-part diatonic harmony. And I think of this as kind of your color palette. If you're an artist, these are your greens, your blues, your reds, and then we can also do 4-part harmony, which is we just stack another note. We stack another third on top, and that's a little more sophisticated sounding. And of course, right now we're looking at the major scale. We're harmonizing the major scale. We can harmonize minor scales. We can harmonize all kinds of scales. But the main scale that we use is the major scale, which is also the same as the natural minor scale. So those are the 2 most common used in Western music. So we'll just look at that. These chords always follow the same order. And there's so much to be said about these topics. I'm not going to go through it all. But it always follows the same order no matter the key. If I'm in C, this is 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, 7 diminished, and 1 major. And so that, whether I'm in C or whether I'm in G, right, it's going to be 1, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, 7 diminished. You can hear it has kind of the same sound. No matter what key you start on, that pattern is always the same. So we can say that a song is 1, 4, 5, whether it's in C or whether it's in G. You can hear how those are similar. You know, if I'm in A, the 1 to 4 to 5. This is found in a lot of pop music and all kind of music. So how can we take something like as mundane as the ABC song and make it a little spicier, a little sexier? What we do is we can do all kind of substitutions. We could take notes outside of the key. The main idea that lets this happen is that the top melody note, whatever's on top, can stay the same, but then the harmony underneath can change. So that's 1, 4, 1. A, B, C, D, E, right? I can change what the chord underneath that. I can start on the 1 and I can go to a different harmony, right? And that's what makes music so interesting to me, is that there's an endless combination of things you can do underneath the melody to keep changing and keep spinning the same idea a different way. Jacob Collier talks a lot about this. He talks about how you can use any chord with any bass note, and that kind of blew my mind when he said that. I'll play his composition, and then I'll kind of like dissect it, and then through dissecting it, we'll be able to have some more insights into music theory. See if you can recognize the song. It gets a little out there. So, believe me when I say that the melody on top was the same, but all I did was change the chords underneath that. And through a understanding of harmony, diatonic, which means in the key, and chromatic, which means notes we borrow from outside the key. And sometimes we have parallel harmony that we borrow from the parallel minor key. All kind of things we can do with the harmony underneath of that melody to give it some dimension and some movement and something different. So I'll just go through the little thing I wrote. The melody's in C. So everything that I'm going to do is, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to put it on the screen. So you know, everything that we're doing is relative to this key of C. So you could take it and transpose it to a different key, and it would still be the same relationship between the chords. So I started out with a C, the one chord. Most songs start on the one chord, and then I went to the G minor. So instead of playing the G major, I just flatted the B. Right? Right? And then I put an A in there, which is a 5 of 2. Right? So I start on the C, and then I use the 5 chord. So I'm borrowing that 5 from the parallel minor key. So that might sound crazy, but all it means is I'm taking what should be a 5 chord, G major, and I'm just making it minor just to have fun. And that G minor is found in C minor. And if we harmonize the C minor scale, not C major, C minor, we end up with G minor as the 5 chord, the 5 minor chord. So I'm kind of just blending, it's kind of going modal, they call it. I'm just borrowing that chord from the key of C minor, the parallel minor key of C major, and then I'm hitting A. So, right? And that A to A7, which is basically the same function here, is a 5 chord. They call it a 5 of. So A should be minor in C, right? The 6th chord, A minor of C, should be minor, but by playing an A major, A7, we have that C sharp, that raised C. So that suggests some kind of D, because A is the 5 of D. So you know they call this a secondary dominant. So I'm in the key of C, and the dominant is 5, right? But if I choose a major outside of a dominant chord outside of the key of C, I have A major. It's gonna sound like I'm going to either a D minor or a D major key. We can do secondary dominants on many places. So let's just look in the key of C. We can take the D minor and make it major, and that suggests G. If we're in C and we make the E major instead of minor, it suggests A. Okay, if we're in C and we make the B major, which I'm going to do later, instead of diminished, it should be diminished, right? But we can make that 7 chord, instead of making it diminished, we can make it major, and you'll hear that in the Beatles' Sexy Sadie, and then that suggests E, right? So these are secondary dominant. It's kind of suggesting a different key, but then it pulls us back. So in my composition, I took you to the G minor, took you to the A, and you expect the D, but instead of hitting the D, and that's sometimes in composition, you'll use tension and release. So your ear expects to hear the resolution to D, but actually I'm going to hit you with something else. I hit you with the 5, okay? So that's the false I'm not actually resolving it. You know, sometimes you have a tension with the resolution, and sometimes you have a tension and you just change. You know, a famous example is the song "Creep" by Radiohead, where he goes from the 1 chord. Yeah. So it's in G. So he's going 1, 5 of 6, which you should hear then 6, but he's going G to B major, which is the 5 of 6, and then he goes to the 4. So it's kind of surprising. He's not actually resolving that tension. I'm kind of doing the same thing. Right? I'm going to the dominant from there, the G chord, and it's a suspended chord. So we have a G7, so that's in 4 parts, and I'm just suspending. Instead of playing the 3rd, I'm putting it up to the 4th, and so that strongly suggests C. But again, I take you to F major 7. That's the 4 chord, okay, and the 4-part harmony. We talked about we can harmonize in 4 parts. If we do that, we get a F major 7 and a G dominant 7. So all I'm doing is doing the naturally occurring 5 chord with a suspension back down to the naturally occurring 4 chord in 4 parts. So it's a lot. It's a lot. You know, this is like 2 years of music theory in like 10 minutes. So H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P. And so that's different too. So I'm going to that, for that part, I'm going to E7, which is another secondary dominant in the key of C. That's a 5 of 6. That suggests strongly A. And this time I'm actually giving you the resolution. There's been so much tension to this point and so much trickery of your ear that I wanted to, at the end of that phrase, give you that 6 chord. Da, na, 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 da. So now we feel like we're strongly in A minor. And now I wanted to get out of that, and I kind of went somewhere wacky. Okay, so I went into A flat major 7. So I'm kind of borrowing from the minor key. Remember we did that with G? We borrowed that 5 minor chord. I'm kind of borrowing the 6 in the C minor. Right? I just harmonized the C minor scale. In C minor scale, the 6th chord is major. And so is 7. So you might have heard that. And so 6, 7, 1 in a minor key. Okay, so I'm just taking that 6th chord and I'm adding it in 4 parts. I'm adding the major 7, so that's the 4th on top, the 4th part of the harmony. So I'm using that 6. I'm kind of borrowing it from that parallel minor chord, and then I'm hitting you at the D flat, which is they call that's a special chord. It's called the Neapolitan chord in a minor key. You hear that in maybe show tunes a lot, or in like Broadway or something. All you're doing is playing a major chord. It's technically a flat 2, they call it, but you're playing a major chord above the minor chord. So we're in C minor, and we're playing D flat major. In C minor, D would be diminished, but we're actually just doing another substitution. So now we sound like we're kind of in C minor. We're going and then I go somewhere really weird. I go to A flat augmented, and that's the only chord in this composition that could be considered a little bit atonal. You can think of the augmented chord as a 3 chord in some scales, but it's kind of just like a passing chord. I'm just using it for fun. That's the only one that doesn't kind of have much of a function, and augmented chords can be considered more atonal than functional in a lot of cases. And then I'm going to A suspended 4 to A, and so again that's the 5 of D, so the 5 of 2 in C major. and I'm still not giving you the D. I'm still then after that I go another tension, C sharp diminished, which sounds kind of like an A7. So it's kind of almost the same chord, you know. So let's bring it back. T U V. Right? It's getting really weird. And then I hit you with another tension, W. That's even suggesting the D more, the C sharp diminished. And then I finally hit you with the D, X, and I hit you the D minor over A. So I'm even still not giving you the full chord. I'm giving you an inversion. You have chords can be inverted. So there's D F A, that's D, then D over F, F A D, and then A D F, D over A. So we call it this is root position, first inversion, second inversion, right? So finally hitting you with that resolution to D minor, and then I'm hitting you with Y and Z. So I hit you with a 5 of, it says this is an E7 over G sharp, so this is a 5 of 6. We saw earlier, should be resolving from 5 of 6 to 6, but this time Y and Z. This time I actually went to G. The same trick we did earlier by not resolving the tension, we did here. We go E to G. It should go to A minor, but we're going to go going to the 5 chord of C. So it's not resolving to the 6 like we expect. It's going to 5 chord. And then I kind of brought it back to 5 to 1, right? G, that's the strongest movement in Western music. 1 to 5, 5 to 1. That, you know, that strongly suggests a key center. So I brought it back for the last phrase. I brought it back to the 5 to 1. Now I know my C's. So I brought it back to the 1 chord like we started on C, because we've been out in outer space and now we're coming back to finish it up. That chord is similar to the chord we played earlier with the G minor, but I just kind of did it a little different. I did a B flat 6, so that's like basically similar to a G minor 7, but in an inversion. So you can think of that 2 different ways, but it's the same functionality. It's kind of borrowing from that parallel minor key of C minor. And then we do A, B, C's, B7, which is a 5. B should be diminished. We talked about that earlier. B7 is a 5 of 3, and I actually hit you with the 3 there. So E minor is the 3 in C. That's it. Okay. So now 5 of 3, 3, and then for the ending we want something really cool. So we go E flat 9, which again, this is the kind of the theme of this one. Composition is borrowing from the parallel minor key of C minor. E flat would be the 3 major in C minor. And in minor keys, there's usually a resolution pushing toward that 3 major key, chord, that 3 major chord. So all I did was add some embellishment to that 3 chord. Added a 9th and a 7th to it. So I did 5-part harmony there. Right? So that sounds real jazzy and sweet. So next time, won't you? Back to our theme of 5 of 2, 8 with the A major, and this time finally at the end I hit you with the full D minor 7. So we have that nice resolution, A to D minor, and then we go G suspended 4 to G. And I should hit you with the 1 major, but I hit it with the major 7. Just to make it a little jazzy and open-ended sounding. As you can see, you can kind of take a really simple tune like this and through your understanding of harmony and theory, make it much more interesting harmonically. I encourage you to go make a video and a performance of your own composition of the ABC song and link to it here in the comments and show me what kind of crazy stuff you come up with. If you have any questions about a lot of this heavy theory that I threw at you, or if you appreciate it or you want to talk to me about it, hit me in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. My name's Yusif.